How can I become wealthy? That is a question I'm sure most of our listeners will have asked themselves at some point, but one that we seldom know how to answer. Our guest for Touch Base and Soul today is an experienced fund manager of over 30 years who's been actively sharing his experiences to help Korean people find that answer recently. Often called the Warren Buffett of Korea, John Lee has become a familiar face appearing on TV shows and lectures when he's not running Meritz Asset Management, one of the leading investment management firms in Korea. I'm delighted to say that Mr. Lee has joined us now in the studio to talk more about his career and why he's trying to educate the people about the importance of financial literacy. Welcome to the show, Mr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you first tell us a little bit more about yourself for our listeners? You were born and raised in Korea, but then I believe you went to the US for college in the 80s. Did you always know that you wanted to be involved in the financial world and become a fund manager like you did?
Nah, interesting. I never expected that I become a fund manager. I didn't know even the job exists as a fund manager. But
right.
I rather say it's a coincidence. Before I become a manager, I was a CPA working for a company called KPMG, the largest accounting firm in the world. And what happened was, in the same building I used to work as a company called Scott Stevens & Clark that is very well respected as a management company. And it was so fascinating to find out that the company has launched a Korea fund. So I said, what's a Korea fund? Why they chose Korea? Out of so many different countries like Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, why they chose Korea? That really, that I became very curious. And one day, because it's the same building, I visited the company and knocked on the door. And I was very brave and say, I think I can help you guys managing the Korea fund because I can speak the language, I know Korean culture, and I'm very good at numbers. So I can help you, running the Korea fund. They were laughing, and they asked me back, Mr. Lee, do you have any investment background? So I said, no, but if you can teach me, then I can do the job. They were laughing, but they found me very interesting. And next day, they called me up, and they said, hey, you got a job.
Wow.
So very, very, very... very interesting that that's what happened. So I became a fund manager.
It sounds like you were very brave, and as we would say, you'd had a lot of moxie to go up and knock on the doors and ask for that.
Yes,
then,
I think that impressed them.
And you were very successful running the fund, I believe, from 91 to the mid-2000s. I understand it was the first Korea-focused public equity fund in the US that achieved a staggering 1,600% cumulative returns during that time. So you built a very successful career in investment management in the US. What led you to return to Korea then?
Well, I probably it sounded like self-serving, but I was able to outperform the market by 10% every single year. I had a great 15 years at Scudder, and unfortunately, Scudder was merged by Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank has totally different investment, style, different philosophy, and after the merger, every single fund manager and analyst left the company. I was actually the last person who left the company.
But still, can you have stayed in the U.S.? What brought you back
but
to
I moved to
Korea?
another company. But back of my head, always thinking that someday I have to go to my home country to help ordinary people to prepare for the financial freedom, financial independence whatsoever. So I wanted to help them, and then I decided to come to Korea 6 years ago.
So that was always in your mind, that you wanted to help Korean people?
Yes, because, always coming back to Korea, I felt that the financial literacy in Korea is among the bottom in the list in the OECD countries. People don't know. People are not comfortable talking about money. They don't, investing in stock market is kind of gambling to them. So I have to change that somehow. Always thinking that someday I will go to home country, and that's what happened 6 years ago.
So you started on that journey 6 years ago, coming to Korea to help Korean people learn more about finances and investment.
Right.
And nowadays you frequently appear on television, you give lectures, you run your own YouTube channel, which I believe you have almost 190,000 subscribers, which is very impressive as well. You published a book as well in January called John Lee's Habits to Become Rich, which became a bestseller. So they're all about building wealth. How have you found it? How's the response been to all this, your mission so far?
Well, I started this mission about 5 years ago, traveling around the country, lecturing them and the importance of their preparing, their financial matters. And it didn't happen in the beginning. People didn't care about the money too much. But nowadays they now begin to listen to what I'm saying. So it's kind of surprising that all of a sudden, my subscription for the YouTube is rising very fast. And
why do you think that is? What changed, do you think?
I think that I continuously telling the same message, I guess. And now the YouTube is very powerful. I think YouTube is kind of a big role in that activities, delivering my message to people. I don't know, but all of a sudden, and after I wrote the book, that helped a lot. But I guess people are focusing more on the money matters after the virus thing.
Right, sure, with the coronavirus situation.
What is more important for their life? It's money and health.
Yes, of course. With the coronavirus situation, I'm sure many people are looking towards their future. But at the same time, I would say, in my view, what I've seen is the fact that because house prices have been going up and the real estate market has been so difficult for people to enter, especially young people, they're looking for different ways maybe to try and invest and to build up a wealth. Is that what you think you're finding as well?
I think that's a problem. I know that in Koreans, the investment, they already think about the real estate. Not considering the stock market. So that's one big problem. That I think that the real estate market is now too overly priced. I don't buy property now. I rather stay in the stock market. It's a much better value that I rather rent than buying a house. But it's part of the financial literacy, I guess.
Okay, then let's get into it. What is your advice for people then who do want to build up a wealth? What habits would you encourage people to take?
I emphasize the two things. One, change the lifestyle. Don't ever spend money to make you look rich. Trying to be rich.
Don't try to look rich, but find out how to become
rich. For example, they spend so much money, like buying very expensive clothing, jewelries, and designer bags, and something like that. That makes you from being financially independent, financially secure. That is a big problem. And
but isn't part of the fun having money to spend money as well?
Then you have to make a choice. You said that you want to be rich, right? And also you have to learn to make your money work for you rather than you work for money. That's a very important thing. I rather buy assets rather than liabilities. But many people don't know they are actually buying the liabilities, such as buying a very expensive cars. It's that you get into liabilities, not the asset.
Not just expensive cars. I think one of the most striking bits of advice that you've given is to not have a car at all, any car, because you're saying that can be a hole where your money goes down. For example, you pay for the car, you pay for insurance, you pay for fuel.
In Korea, as you know, especially in Seoul, you don't need a car. Public transportation is very, very well developed here. Then I don't understand why people driving and spend so much money. You spend about 800,000 won per month to maintain the car. So if you put that money into the stock market, you'll be much better off.
You'd be better off, but then for most people, I think they're afraid to go into the stock markets because, as you say, especially in Korea, they see it as a gamble. How do we invest healthily and safely with our money so that in the future that we can become wealthy?
Well, that you have to learn the mechanism of how stock market works. It's when you buy stock, that means that you are buying the piece of the company. So you stay with the long-term perspective rather than short-term trading. But no one has ever taught that them, how to make an investment in stock market. All the television, stock analysts, all the experts saying always day trading. It's not investment. It's speculating. But I keep telling them, you stay with the stock market 20 years, 30 years, then you'll be super rich.
But then how do you identify where to invest, where to look for 20 years, 30 years in the future?
Well, you have to study.
Study, you mean company?
The fundamentals of a company. That if you don't have time and if you don't know how to do it, then buy the fund. And there's a great the government programs that you can save money, you can save tax. At the same time, you can invest in stock market. There are like a U.S. 401k plan. There's many good ways to have access to the stock market, but people don't know. That's why I'm telling people there are many ways that you can invest in the stock market, utilizing the government tax incentives.
How important do you think it is for Korean people to understand your message? You said you came here 6 years ago to deliver this message. Why is it so important for Korean people?
Yeah, because Korea is already a very rich country as a nation. But if we come down to individual level, that's not the case. 90% of people they suffering from shortage of money. And the population over 65 years old, 50% is poverty level. And the suicide rate is highest for 12 years because of money. So you have to do something about it.
Right, and you don't see that changing anytime soon, you're saying?
No. They spend so much money. They don't understand, investment. They keep, buying things that is not really ideal for your future. They spend so much money for hagwon.
For teaching kids education, after-school education.
Buying
classes,
a car, even if it's not necessary.
I think another piece of advice I heard you say was don't invest in your children's special after-school activities. Put some of that money into stocks for them that you can hand over to them in the future.
Absolutely. And there's a big difference. Like if someone go to hagwon, staying in the midnight, and this guy, they kill the creativity staying in hagwon. But the other guy, put all the money in the stock market. After 20 years, he'll be, much better off financially.
So he might have lesser grades, but be more financially stable in the long term.
Yeah, having a good grade doesn't mean that you are financially secure. There's no relationship. But people believe that if my son or daughter's grade is A+, then that person will be rich. That's not the case. Why are you wasting all the money? Killing their creativity.
I wish we could talk to you longer, but we are running out of time.
Okay.
Very briefly, what are your plans for the future then now?
Well, I have a 3 to 5 year plan that we are going to visit every single town in country to telling the message, the same message to individual people. We bought a small bus, traveling around the country. And we're going to have a contract with a major movie theater chain that using their facilities to invite all the people who wants to hear my message. So I have a very big plan for the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, I hope that people continue to listen to your message, and I hope your words of advice will be helpful to our listeners as well. Maybe it'll rub off on me too. I need to look better care of my finances as well. It was very interesting to hear what you had to say. We've been speaking to John Lee, CEO of Meritz Asset Management and Korean investment guru. Thank you for your thoughts today.
Thank you.